Well, good afternoon, Scott Baker. Happy Sunday to you.
Happy Sunday to you, Mikey Ames. And it is today, so it's Sunday, January 4th. We are live here, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Glad that you're joining us for Lead Better if you're watching live or listening later. And today we're talking about commitment and the idea of getting people to be more committed. And obviously, any leader is saying, come on, this is so great. And they're trying to give some vision and it doesn't start to sound so exciting. Or then they just ram it down people's throats and one way or another it falls apart. So the field note is entitled, How to Create More Commitment to the decisions and tasks that we face. And I think I'm going to posit that the first part of this started to sound kind of exciting. How to create more commitment. And then it kind of gets to decisions and tasks. And it really starts to be like drudgery. So Mikey, that's the challenge here. How do we, you see where I'm exaggerating.
Yeah.
But
no,
can we get people through this to actually feel like excited about the decisions and tasks that their team faces?
Yeah, nothing like a little bit of nostalgia to keep people engaged with commitments on decisions and tasks as we talk about this. So let me ask you,
Okay.
because it's related to the way that I first kind of learned about task commitment. Did you ever sell World's Finest chocolate as a kid growing up?
You know, I have heard people talk about this, and maybe my kids did, but I don't think that I did. I just don't remember a lot of, I do remember some going door to door for school things, but I actually can't say that I remember the World's Finest chocolate, but was it
Really?
indeed the World's Finest chocolate?
Well, most of us had because it's not about the chocolate. It's not about being committed to the chocolate. The real memory is the idea of like the rep from World's Finest chocolate would come in and do this pep rally for the elementary school, right? To get them excited about all the levels that was and all the incentives that were built in if you sold so much chocolate, right? And so it would be this presentation that would be about 20 or 30 minutes, and he would slowly bring out like all the packages of like one incentive after another, right? And eventually you got to the point where it was like the big reveal, right? And it was a bicycle that you could win, right? So it was this slow build and all the incentives out there. And then there was this level of commitment. Then after you've been through this 6 years in a row as a sixth grader, like you're used to seeing this, but then a pattern kind of emerges for you that you probably don't really figure out until you're like in 9th or 10th grade.
Okay.
And that is that there's one class, because there's a classroom competition that takes place with this as well.
Right.
There's one class that always wins the pizza party. And no matter how hard you try, it always seems to like it was the second grade, and then the year after that it was the third grade, and the year after that it was the fourth grade. And you don't even recognize it until you're sixth grader that it's always like Timmy from the second grade has won it in the third grade, and the fourth grade, and the fifth grade. And he seems to be winning the pizza party for everyone. And at first you're thinking, oh, Miss Temple is the one who really knows how to rally her troops and get those students selling for her. But then you realize, no, it's Timmy. It's all a sham, right? And you realize that Timmy's mom is the one who's actually the one who's selling all the chocolate on behalf of Tim. But you didn't realize that as a fifth and sixth grader. And so I was all in, right? And this is why I bring it up. Was there anything like that as a kid that you were all in on, that some adult like rallied you to like get into some kind of commitment where it was your performance as a child that actually showed whether or not you were committed or not?
Yeah, I think so. And by the way, I did a little search here to see it because I thought, well, maybe I'll get out of jail on this one because maybe this started because I'm older than you are, and I thought, well, maybe the World's Finest Chocolate School Fundraiser didn't start until after my time.
Yes.
But no, it did. Yeah. So it's probably likely that at the Braddock Elementary School in Annandale, Virginia, where I was in elementary school, that we probably did that at some point.
And you were so strong-willed at the time that you were able to just ignore all the incentives. No, this is not for you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
As a third grader, stepping away from it.
I suppose I could have. I was never too. I don't think I was sort of like, hey, I'm Mr. Salesman, but I was never really fazed by the idea of going door to door. I like talking to people, and that was no problem. But whether that was the commitment or things I was the kind of person that was sort of fascinated by the things I got fascinated by, and then I'd go all in. And I whether it was something in nature like butterflies, or it was a sport like surfing, or different things where I would kind of I'd get 20 books on it. I'd go really, really deep on those things, and that's great. I think the question here is, right?
Yeah,
can you as a leader
talking about the innate sense of commitment,
an innate sense of commitment,
right.
yeah, and then that, and I used to actually tell the story, and this actually applies, I think, to actually one of the main parts inside this field note, the deal, because there's a couple of key behaviors in terms of saying, well, here's what you do to get your team more committed, but there's a part of identification. And one of the things that I always said was, at one point, and I it will take us too much time, but I talked to my mother about this last night, my 83-year-old mother in Oklahoma, which I never grew up in. How did she get to Oklahoma? Another story. So I started looking at, my dad was going on a business trip to Hawaii. Maybe I was, I don't know, eight years old. And so I wanted to go. Couldn't pull it off. But I was already interested in pearl diving, and I had a skateboard, and I was doing surfing. And so I really got into this, where I subscribed to surfing magazines. I went to surf shops in the Maryland, DC, Virginia area where I lived. And I knew a tremendous amount about surfing. And in fact, I had a pervasive knowledge. Now, for many, many years, there was one missing element of that.
You didn't have an ocean.
I never had actually surfed, but I felt like a surfer, right? My identity had shifted to be the surfer. So the question is whether we have a team, and whether we're saying, and some of it could be the idea of commitment, of saying well, are we a team that likes challenges? Are we a team that likes impossible odds?
Right.
Are we a team that like the All Blacks, we sweep the shed, we clean up after ourselves? Are we a team that does this? Is this how we see ourselves? And I think that that's sort of a powerful way that a leader can move the team, because as we go to the field note, just to kind of make sure, and then we can come back to both the world's finest chocolate, because I'd like to know if I don't think you ever won the bicycle.
I never won the bicycle.
Yeah, but you could have. I don't think Timmy's mom was the ringer here. A committed second grader really could have been like, I'm taking this.
No.
I don't care what advantage you have.
I realized the fix was in. There was no way of beating Timmy's mom. No way.
Yeah, well, you can find some other moms to help you. Right. There's some other ways to
you're right. I didn't even know to leverage,
there could have been ways to there could have been ways to distract Timmy's mom, and there are all kinds of things. Now, the main thing as we kind of look here is to say, and we talked, this was a 1-2. We did commitment yesterday. Now we're kind of coming back to this commitment on getting the team. And the first thing, and we can deal with these in order, is the idea of movement. Action, like get people doing stuff faster and right away. Don't set the start date, or don't set the motion. If you can actually, move into the process, then that becomes, it's not a full flywheel at that point, but the flywheel is starting to move at least.
Right. No, it's always easier to train a moving horse, is what the old the cattle horse training montage is, right? You don't want. Yes.
Is that a phrase? I've never heard that phrase.
Oh, it's always easier.
I mean, it might be true. I'm not saying it's not true.
No, like do you want a live horse, or do you want one that's just kind of lazy, right? So the idea of being able to train the direction that it's already headed, like it's young, it doesn't know where it's going, but it's going somewhere, and then being able to teach it, this is the direction that you go, this is how you go. Yeah. It is an old saying for
you know that this is true for yourself, right? That there are some things where you say, all right, I just have to get going. We always say the heart, the biggest, the key exercise in getting to the gym is opening the door. Mm-hmm. Can you get inside the door of the gym? Now you've started. Right. Now, some people will just actually click to the point where they just never even think about it. Like I have a cold today. I don't feel particularly good. It never occurred to me to not go in the morning. I do a little, 20 or 30 minutes of just some light cardio, and then the big workouts later in the afternoon, 6 or 7 days a week. But it never occurs to me to not do the morning workout. It's not even like even an equation, right? So it's just a thing that I do all the time. no matter what.
How many things are in your life that way where you don't think of them as that's not an option? I just do.
Oh, for me, a lot. Yeah, I have like most of the things I do, morning and particularly at the end of the day are just routines that I've built in. There's not any internal debate about whether to do that thing or not.
Right. And so if that's innate for you, and you're also saying like you already have like a framework that says, oh, here's something I don't really want to do, but I'm going to adopt it in the same way. That says I'm not going to allow myself to like debate it in the morning. I'm just going to do it. No option.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So it occurred to me in the middle of it this morning. I was like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I'm actually delaying my recovery. But it was too late. I had fun.
That's actually really funny that you actually have to spend time thinking about it, because it's actually better for you if you do consider
it is harder to talk myself out of it than not. But the point being that once you're actually in there and you're on the bike or you've put on the running shoes or whatever that thing is, we all know individually that this is true. So if we can get the team into that mode, and now that could mean, and by the way, if you engage an admired leadership coach one-on-one, which from our free field notes to our AI, which is quite affordable, to our main subscriber playbook, to our engaging with real life humans, we have everything for everybody there, right? And that's why 183 countries around the world follow what we're talking about. But if you have a coach, and this is the very high end of the people that do this, and a lot of Fortune 100 leaders use our coaches. If you just meet with a coach before you've even hired them, they will put you to work. Like they're gonna put you to work right away in some way, whether you thought about it or not. And all of a sudden later, you're like, well, how do I really think about that? You realize, oh wait, they got me. Like because they've engaged your mind in a way to get you working on you, thinking about the conversation, and that's what you're looking to do here as a leader. You're trying to even just to say in the conversation, well, what's the thing that we would do, or how would we start this, or where would we go with that, or what's the first idea? And I've talked about the fact that very often I try at the end of the day to open up the Word document or the Pages document or set out the book or set up the things that make it easy to get into the flow of work next day. Do the same thing here with your teams in terms of this kind of commitment. Get them into action fast.
Yeah. Some people, on the other hand, people have the tendency maybe to, I'm going to announce this. We're not going to actually start it for 2 weeks. So this is a recommendation that says like, maybe you shorten that time where you initially kick something off and when the launch day is, right? Instead of feeling like, oh, I need to give people 2 weeks to get used to the idea. Instead, you make it happen very quickly.
Or even if you're going to do the launch date in 2 weeks, have like homework or something right away. By end of day today, I need 3 ideas around this particular thing. Now, the next area I think is actually the little bit trickier area, which is this idea of the power of public commitment. And you see this all the time. This can, you see this in religious circumstances. You see it when people are asking you to sign, what are the things you do on a street where like a guy hands you a clipboard and you're signing a petition, right? I was like, okay, you're signing a petition. Yeah. And we get tricked into all kinds of ways of identifying, like we'll give you 10% off the cost of your roof if you put this sign out in your yard, right? That, whatever. So the idea of an organization doing that or a leader doing that, the field note addresses this idea that you can have some things that people are doing, but I do think that there is a way that you can do this that isn't necessarily manipulative, unless you feel like it's always manipulative.
Well, no, I think that the chocolate man who would come to school would always kind of say it that way, right? Like your school is committed to selling 600 boxes of chocolate. So as we go down, that's 100 boxes per classroom, which means your responsibility as a kid is 3 boxes of chocolate. So automatically you're thinking about like, okay, how many
can I handle? Can I do 3? Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was, it started from the time that you're a kid that this kind of thing is built in, and it worked for me. I know it didn't work for you, but it worked for me.
Well, I don't know that I didn't do it. I'm going to now ask my 83-year-old mother if she remembers this. So I think the question here on public commitment, though, is one of the ways that I think that we get committed is when we have to start becoming the advocates, right? When you've learned or been taught something. And so I think if you as a leader say, all right, here's what we're trying to do. And I say, Mikey, does this make sense? And you go, yes. And you go, can you explain it to the team? Can you go talk to this group? Can you unfold this plan? Because once you start presenting it, And that's true about anything that we generally learn ourselves. I used to teach seminars, and I used to tell the people in the seminars, I'm actually doing this for me, because whenever I teach you really valuable content, I get more committed to that content. In fact, it's very hard for me to then not abide by the content that I'm communicating, right?
Right.
So if I can get you to become the advocate, it makes you identify with it, and you're doing it in public. So I think that's a way to do this.
Yeah, it's a dangerous thing if you ever get to the point where you realize that you are not living by the things that you're teaching either.
Yeah.
Because that puts you on a cycle where you know you're a hypocrite and you're fine with it and you're going down that road, right? So
Right.
allow yourself to be honest in a way that, just saying the things out loud means that you're going to live by them. That's great.
All right. So how would this have worked in the chocolate world for the final and the biggest part of this around the identification of the person, and saying the leader needs to connect whatever the task is, whatever the decision is, to the vision and values of the organization.
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, this is about incentives.
Yes.
Right? Now, we can talk about position, pay, those kind of things. This field note doesn't get into all of that so much. That's why we have thousands of them. But this issue of saying, can I make this about something bigger than just 3 boxes?
Yes.
Now, you have an incentive about, like, the classroom might win the pizza party. I don't think I can win the bicycle, but I might be able to win the basketball, right?
Yeah.
Or something along the way. But if I can connect this to an idea of, I don't really know that I can make your elementary school so exciting in terms of the visions and values of the elementary school that you, as an 8-year-old, would get excited.
It's funny, but I think there is a real good corollary here. And I think the best way to be able to kind of connect, personal identification, vision and values with, like, the actual task and decision, like, how do you say it in a way that really is inspiring? I think it is through people, through individual stories.
Right.
And the Chocolate Man would always do that, right? The Chocolate Man would always be referencing the year's winners before, right? They would always talk. So that now
there's a legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chocolate Man would almost always do it with an incentive-based program. The Chocolate Man could talk about the fact that you're raising money for school. You're allowing it to be easier for your school to be able to buy textbooks, right? But that's not a very exciting thing for kids to be able to do, right? But to be able to say you're making the school a better place, and then bring up last year's winner, and, like, they're not actually riding the bike around the auditorium when they're doing it, but you can envision, oh, that's me. That can be something that's me. And, presidents do this in their State of the Union address, where they bring guests in to say, this is who I'm talking about. So connecting the vision and values of what your speech is as a leader to the actual people that you're talking about is it's a really powerful tool that you should.
That is, yeah. So the more vivid you can make that, then the better. Now, I do think we can all see this. We can think of ways in our teams, in our families, in our organizations where we can, here's what we got to do. Let's get started on it. Let's take one small step right away and then keep that moving. What's the step? What's the next step? And that's why you're the leader, because you can start to think through the ways of doing this that don't seem artificial, that just seem like a natural outflow. And pretty soon people are already, like, halfway to the goal because you just kind of did it right away. And you got them to start kind of identifying with it. And then you kind of got them connected to the values of it. At least you have a fighting chance at this point.
Right. Right.
So I like the steps in this field note, and I think we can all abide by them. Whether or not that would help us sell chocolate door to door, I don't know. But I am a big fan of dark chocolate, and I have a little bit of that every day. So I'm on your team.
Yeah, boy, that door to door thing, like your version of, like, being a teenage magician, was like all the lessons that you learned from that. I learned from going door to door selling chocolate. Right, it was a great little thing. All right.
Well, I will tell you, I've enjoyed the 2 days we've done on commitment here, and then we'll be back live tomorrow on January 5th for 2020 to begin the first kind of full work week of 2026. And we don't always have a sneak peek of tomorrow's field note at this point, but tomorrow's, I'm going to tease it for everybody that happens to be watching live right now. It's a pretty good one. And it's about this is one of those broader topics where we now kind of get to the kind of things I think get people really chewing on the deeper questions at the beginning of the year. And tomorrow's field note is entitled, "Do you project the identity that you really want to?"
Excellent. Look forward to it. All right.
All
Bye
right.
now.
Thanks, Mikey.